Okay. Erev Tov, good evening. Welcome back. We do have a couple of new faces, right? Yeah. Nice to meet you guys. My name is Paz, for the new ones. For the old ones, my name is still Paz. Okay, so let's get started. We've got a fascinating night ahead of us. It's the second of the series in regards to decision making. Good thing you reminded me. I'll also put mine on vibrate. Excellent. So, let's get started. Decision making. Let's do a short recap of last week. The impact of, by the way, just anybody got the chance to watch the TED.com video?
Yeah.
Show of hands. Excellent. Very good. The rest of you, see yourselves as lazy and go home and do your homework assignments. By the way, a video of last week's session is up on YouTube. So you guys can watch it and make up for whatever you missed. It's under my email address in YouTube. I have a channel. It's called Positive. So you have that in there. You can just punch in Positive, and under Decisions, it's called Decisions 1. Last session. Today is the second session. Short recap of last session. The impact of decisions on our lives. Decisions are really what makes our lives happy or miserable. And the reason for that being is Chazal teach us. Everybody know who Chazal is? Our sages. Chazal is 3 letters. Chachamenu zichronam livracha. Our sages, God rest their soul. Our sages teach us that there is no joy, there is no happiness, and simcha kehatarat hasfekot, as the releasing or relieving or the taking apart of doubt. In other words, when you let go of your doubts, you're the happiest person in the world. If letting go of doubt brings the happiest of joys, what must be a great deal of suffering? Being in doubt. Okay? So doubt is the greatest suffering. If doubt is the greatest suffering, we don't want to be in doubt. We're here to learn how to make decisions, how not to be in doubt. How do we get to a happy place where we know at any given moment exactly what we need to do? Just a side note, people often identify with this without me even going into researches that prove it, that when a person knows that this is exactly what they need to do right now, even the most difficult, emotionally and physically, tasks become bearable and doable, and sometimes even bring joy. When a person knows that this is exactly what they need to do right now, they do it with a certain degree of happiness, even though by definition it might be a very difficult task. I'll give you an example. When I take my kid to the dentist, now anybody has taken a 5 or 7-year-old kid to the dentist? It ranges from, Daddy, I'm scared, to, there's no way I'm going to stay in this chair. Okay? That's right. We also have that reaction. The only difference is we don't always have to have somebody holding us down as the doctor drills into us, right? Well, with the kid, you might...
Sorry.
Okay, well, I try not to have somebody... Well, but with the kid, you have to. I mean, I had to literally hold my kid down as the doctor drills into his teeth while he's screaming and yelling. And of course, a lot of the screaming and yelling has nothing to do with the pain. Okay? He starts screaming and yelling before the doctor even touches him. I do that to my doctor also. He looks at me and I go, ow! He's like, what? I'm practicing. But how can a father do that? You know that your son is going through agony, but this is the right thing to do, and this is exactly what I need to do right now, and I'm okay with it. But if you're in doubt, you don't even know. I'm not sure. It does need it. It doesn't need it. The doctor is not sure. You're not sure. The same exact task now becomes super difficult. Okay? So again, the doubt is what makes things difficult in life, not the task itself. Can everybody identify with this? Can we move on, or do I need to prove it? We're all good? Excellent. By the way, you guys can voice your opinions. It goes in there. I like that. Okay. So we want to get out of doubt. Last session, we divided every decision we have in life into 3 categories. A preference against a preference, a preference against a value, or a value against a value. In other words, any decision we make falls into, any element we would like to choose falls into 2 categories, either a preference or a value. And then when we're in a dilemma, it's because 2 of them contradict, 2 of them conflict. Anybody can give me an example of a preference against a preference? Well then. Yes.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Excellent. Chocolate or vanilla? It's a preference against a preference. There's no value in there. Nahon? You cannot value chocolate over vanilla. Say there? One should not value chocolate over vanilla. Okay, it's a preference. I prefer chocolate over vanilla. Say there? Any other preferences?
Coffee or tea?
Okay, let's take it up a notch. Okay,
Sleeping or going out?
very good. Preference against a preference. Are there values in there?
Yeah.
Oh, now you want to introduce values into that. Let's hear.
Well, but I think also in chocolate and vanilla you can have value.
Let's hear.
If you're allergic to chocolate, but you like chocolate better.
Oh, very good. So now you can introduce a value into it, because health is a value. Health is not a preference. Okay? Blue shirt or green shirt? Preference or value? Preference. This apartment or that apartment? How is that a value?
Depends what area it's in. If it's like, if it's in like a city or in a.
And how is that a value?
Depends. Like your children could be brought up in different ways.
So child raising is a value. The apartment
Where
is
did
not.
they come from? Yeah.
The apartment is not. We see the idea? So when the apartment has implications on your life, the implications are of value. The apartment itself, any difference? This stove or that stove, this kitchen or that kitchen. We see that, yeah? Now, it's surprising, but we find that we spend most of our lives making decisions in which realm? Preference against preference. Now, the advice we gave last time regarding preference against preference is what? Anybody remembers?
Just pick.
Just pick. Why?
Because you're wasting your time and you don't want to indulge your animalistic value.
Oh, somebody is memorizing it. Unbelievable. Very good. Very good. Okay. We get the idea? The more you strengthen your preferences, the more you strengthen the lower form of you, the lowest form of you. Now, what forms do you have? Well, you have at least 3 forms. You have the physical essence, right? You have your basic spiritual essence, what makes the difference between a dead person and a live person, a dead cow and a live cow. And you have a soul. Yes, these are 2 different things. Okay? It just so happens that when the soul leaves a human body, it stops being alive as well. But animals don't have a soul, and still something goes out when they die. Right? That element is within us as well. So far, so good? Now, when you pick between chocolate and vanilla, which element is at play? Which element is the one picking?
The physical?
The physical, which is what form of you? The lowest part. The animalistic, the more basic, the more crude part, the one that makes our life complex and difficult and drives us nuts all day and all night. We don't want to strengthen that element. We want to weaken it. We want to give it less of an importance. How? That when it starts nagging you and saying, no, I want chocolate, no, I want vanilla, no, give me chocolate, no, give me vanilla, no, maybe pecan, okay? You say, you know what, just shut up, take whatever I give you, leave me alone. I would like to consume myself, to keep myself busy, to fill myself with a higher level of thinking. I would like to exercise the internal muscles that have to do with the spiritual part of me, not with the part that's going to decay and fall apart anyway. Okay? So when you have a decision to make, and it's taking you between a preference and a preference, and it's taking you longer than, I don't know, 5 seconds to make, carry a coin in your pocket. Flip the coin, whatever it comes, just do it and carry on. Blue shirt, green shirt, this restaurant, that restaurant. As long as there's no value in the equation, it's unimportant. Can everybody see that? We're on the same page? Excellent. Next step. Okay? Now, values. Values against the preference, that's actually a dilemma. That's where dilemmas start. It's the easiest of dilemmas. A more difficult one is values against values. These are really tough. That's the real ones. Okay? A value against a preference is still a dilemma. That's where your free choice starts. Until then, you don't have free choice. Until then, it's like a cow standing in front of this bush and that bush and not knowing which bush to eat. Okay? It's exactly the same. The mental process that goes in there is almost identical to that of a cow. Say that? So I'm not even talking about those decisions. I don't know how to call them actual decisions, but I'm not even talking about that. I'm focusing where? I'm focusing on when there is a value against a need or a preference. I need money. I don't want to lie. How do I write my resume now? That's where you come into effect. That's where we can see who you are. When I say you, okay? Give me your name.
Yoel.
Yoel? How do we know who Yoel is? Yoel does not come into expression in his preference against preference decisions. The place we see Yoel is when Yoel has to choose between a need, or what we call a preference, and a value. That's when we see who Yoel is. That's where your free choice is. That's where you are as a human being. That's what defines you. That's what makes you happy or miserable. Now, anybody who watched the TED video, just as a recap, I sent you guys off to watch a speaker by the name of Dilbert speaking about the subject of happiness in TED.com. Now, he concludes that it doesn't matter what happens to you and what decision you make, you'll end up being as happy as you were before, as long as it happened over 3 months ago. That's his general conclusion. It's true, because he's talking from the point of view of a person who doesn't have any values. When you don't have values, all your decisions are what? Preference against preference. What difference does it make? He's right. It makes no difference whatsoever. If you thought about picking this lottery ticket versus that lottery ticket, and this one lost and that one won, whether you lost the lottery or won the lottery, will have no impact on your level of happiness a year past that event. He's right, because it's a preference against a preference. There are no values there. You see the idea? Where do you come into play? Where do you express who you are? When are you a human being?
When values are involved.
When values are involved. When you have a value against a preference, that's when you're judged. I need sleep. I have a value to help my wife with the kids. Okay? What do I do now is who I am. We get the idea? Do I get up and take care of the kid? Do I continue sleeping? That defines who you are. This is when you come into play. So far, so good? How do we make value against preference decisions?
Choose the value.
Choose the value. Very good. Now, our brain knows that. It knows that it's a very easy decision to make. So what does it do? It attaches a value to our need. It says, look, it's not just you need to sleep just as a bodily need, but you need to be awake tomorrow so you can study better. And you need to work so you can provide money for your family. You love your family, you want to provide them with money, right? So you need to be awake. So you're actually sleeping for the sake of your family. So you can be a better parent tomorrow. Okay? Our brain plays tricks on us. Okay? When it boils down to it, what do I want to sleep for? I'm tired, I'm lazy, I want to sleep. Okay? So when it's very clear and simple, and that's how it was for Adam Arishon. Adam, the one that God created in Gan Eden, for him it was really easy. He knew what was right and wrong. He knew what was the temptation and what were the values. And he didn't touch any of that, initially at least. Once he sinned, a confusion took place, which resides in all of us. That confusion is not knowing what is a value and what are our needs. Okay? So we turn value against needs into value against value. Right? The value of being revived, energetic, and a patient parent and husband tomorrow versus the value of helping the wife now. How do I know which value is greater? The more difficult one to do, it's a nice indication. It's a very nice indication. Not always right though. Okay? There's a general philosophy that says if you're enjoying it, it must be bad for you. Right? It's not true. If you do things right, you enjoy it and it's good for you. Okay? So it's a hard one, might be an indication, but not so. Okay, give me another one. How do I know which value is greater? Go for it.
The thing you wanted to do first, this is, that's the right decision. And when you start thinking, okay, then the brain starts
I was
thinking
tired before he started screaming. I wanted to sleep.
But first you thought, you knew, okay, I need to help my wife. And then it came, okay, no, I need to sleep because I get to
I was tired before I married. I'm always tired. I'm with the sleep deficit since I was born. What do I do now? Which is, by the way, true. Okay, yes.
It's whatever interrupted your preference. Like if you wanted to sleep, but then
Mhm.
like something like in your mind, something like another option interrupted that's the value. Otherwise it wouldn't have made it that far.
So if I wanted to go pray now, and then I got hungry,
No, but that's your preference. I'm saying the thing that interrupted your preference.
how do I know what's preference? As we said, our mind plays tricks on us. I don't know what's a preference. I attach a value to it. You know what you eat now, so you can pray more relaxed and more patiently.
That's true.
So what should I do now?
Eat.
You see how easy it is to fool us?
No, but this
Shall tell Laghai.
example, you cannot
Very
look
good.
to eat.
I'm sorry?
You cannot daven and be like hungry.
Yom Kippur.
That example was, I don't know,
We do it.
nobody.
We do it 4
No, but
times.
we learned last
for
time
an-
that eating is a preference, like it's
Oh,
a need. Everything that is your need, that is like what also the animal would do, eat or like poo or whatever, that's a preference. You know what I
But
mean?
you cannot,
You can function without these
you cannot
things.
pray for me to go to the bathroom.
Remind me to ask you for examples next time I meet them. Really? Yeah, excellent.
Good job, Lauren.
Copyright, all right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's actually, as funny as it may be, that was very wise. Yeah. That was very wise. If one of your preferences ends with a basic bodily animalistic need, then you know you're talking about a preference and not just not a real value. Okay? Now, how do we then decide on the actual values themselves? Who says that I have to help my wife raise the kid? She has her job. I have my job. She raises the kids. I do the work. I work and I bring the money. She works raising the kids. Everybody has his job. Who says that one of my values is even a correct value? That's cheating. Okay? Who says? I mean, if you, and I'm going to take a very extreme example, super extreme example. Who can think of the most extreme example of attaching values to animalistic needs? One of the most extreme values are pretty much any speech given by Hitler. Hitler never went out. This is, in our generation, we do things because we feel like it. In Hitler's generation, you had to justify logically, socially, philosophically your actions. He never went out and said, look, I don't like these Jews. Come on, let's kill them. Okay? If he would have done that in his generation, nobody would have listened to him. What did he do? Every one of his speeches, meticulously, almost beautifully, attaches values, high values, philosophical values, humanistic values, worldly values to his animalistic ones. He went to help the world, to cleanse the world, to improve economy. He wanted to rid the world of disease, of hunger. Do we see how crooked our minds could get? So who says if our values are right or wrong? Okay? I mean, how do people convince others to do crazy, cruel, insane things? They take a value that's an absolute, okay, ridding the world of hunger, and attach it to an action like killing children. We see the idea?
Yeah, the child's no longer hungry.
I'm sorry?
The child's no longer hungry. So
There you go. A dead child is not hungry. I mean, what did they do in Brazil in order to reduce the crime rates? Most of the criminals were whom? Kids who, poor kids who were stealing. Right? Now, what does a crime rate mean? A crime rate means that there is an X number of instances of crime per week happening, right? Now, let's say if those criminals happen to die, would that reduce the crime rate? Okay, so for years they went around just killing the criminals until the world pointed cameras at them. We see the idea? Now, they felt they were improving their country's economy. Their country's economy, everybody's livelihood, is mostly built on what's Brazil's highest income? Tourism. And if there's crime, that harms tourism. If it harms tourism, it harms everybody's economy. So are we going to let this small group of criminals ruin everybody's economy? No. So you see how easy it is to attach an absolute value? Right? All we have to do is override another value. What's the other value we need to override? Murder. We don't really need to completely override it. All we need to do is distort it a little bit. Say, you know, it's not really murder. By the way, that's one of the tactics that Hitler took. What was his tactic for killing the Jews? How did he justify
They're
murdering
rats.
them?
They're animals.
They're not human. If it's not human, you don't have. Does anybody have a problem stepping on a cockroach, except for being disgusted? I'm talking about an actual. No, except for the ichs. An actual philosophical. You can have a vegetarian. Would you like some steak? Murder. You're killing it. Ah! Okay? What? What happened to that? No, that's disgusting. He's gonna touch my food. He's gonna touch my salad, you know? You know, you see them washing the lettuce. I'm like, what are you doing? What do you mean? I'm washing the lettuce. I'm like, murder! What? Oh, don't you know the bugs you're killing? What do you want me to do? Eat them? I'm like, I don't know. That's what I do with a cow. Okay? You should do it, okay? So, we see the idea? I tell vegetarians that I'm nice because I also only eat vegetarian animals. Think about it. Right? If we keep kosher, then you only eat vegetarian animals. Right? So you see, we're nice. Okay, back to our decision-making process. You can chew on that, it's okay. Do the math, we eat vegetarian animals.
Ducks are kosher, right?
I'm sorry?
Ducks are kosher.
Ducks?
Yes.
Duck, yeah?
Was?
Yeah, but-
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ducks, fish.
Ducks, almost any animal, you can feed animals. You can feed chicken, and this is, by the way, this is one of the things they do. They feed chicken.
Oh
Oh my
That's
god.
messed up.
What do you want from me? I don't feed them. But that's what they do. They encourage cannibalism within chicken.
Where do they do that?
Recycling. They recycle chicken. Okay. What? You guys haven't heard of the food industry? Aren't you guys in university? Study some of the food industry. You'll find amazing things. For example, what do they put in ice cream to make it so fluffy
I don't
and
know.
nice? Don't ruin ice cream for me. I'm sorry. You guys don't know? How is it? Anybody made homemade ice cream?
Yeah.
Doesn't it come out hard?
Yeah.
Right? It's so difficult. I mean, even the hardest spoons do not go through it, right? But when you buy ice cream, it's so soft and fluffy.
Kosher or not kosher?
Any ice cream. It's still soft and fluffy and delicious, right? How do they do that? You put soap in it.
What?
Soap. Soap.
Is that allowed?
Doesn't
soap taste so bitter? Wouldn't we notice?
With the amounts of sugar they put in there, they could put poison and you wouldn't notice. Okay? Back to decision making, people.
Who wants ice cream now?
Okay. Chocolate versus vanilla.
Wait, are they
Okay.
allowed? They're allowed to just put soap in our food?
Soap is the lightest form of poison you consume.
Oh, as long as it's light.
It's the lightest form of poison you consume.
Because of the diet.
If you knew some of the other forms of poison you consume, just as a general point, I wouldn't be even talking about this right now because we're talking about decision making. But you guys are, after all, university students, and it's been checked and tested and researched, and it found that something in the vicinity of 70% of university students pop Ritalin or any other form of thing to stay focused. Well, one of the things that could help you is not consuming things that caused the problem in the first place.
Like what?
Alcohol.
Okay, so I'll give you guys a short list because we have to deal with it with our kids. When we have people with kids today know that at least 60% of kids are using one form or another of medication, and the other 40% just do exercises in order to overcome their attention deficits. So how do we overcome it? It's very easy. First of all, stop consuming food coloring, artificial food coloring of any sort. Okay? They stick artificial food coloring in almost everything, including white products. So that's one. Number two, monosodium glutamate, also known as MSG.
Chinese food has loads of it.
Everything has loads of it. Müsli has loads of it.
Yeah.
Okay?
What's the name?
Every- MSG, monosodium glutamate. It says monosodium glutamate. Everything has it. Pizza spices have it. Everything. They stick it everywhere. And Israel is one of the worst places in regulating this stuff. For example, the yellow food coloring, artificial food coloring, is actual poison. It's being dislodged by most modern countries in the world. In Israel, they still feed it to kids. So don't eat it. The next thing up is raw sugar. By the way, you guys know this is not the subject for tonight, but as an added value, raw sugar. Drop raw sugar out of your menu.
What's raw? What do you mean raw sugar? Like split sugar?
No, that's
Like a sugar cane.
not like ice cream is raw sugar. Like a cookie is raw sugar.
Raw sugar is refined sugar.
Just like
Yeah,
sugar?
white, any form of
What about
white
brown
sugar. If it's brown sugar, it's great, but you
What
can
about Ben
almost
Jerry's?
never find it in a commercially being used within. It's better. I didn't say it's good. I say it's better. Okay, now brown sugar, what they did is when people started realizing that brown sugar is better, then companies started taking the white sugar, coloring it brown, and selling it. So, as I said, get sugar out of your menu.
How do you know all this?
I have children.
Yeah, but how did you learn all
I didn't have a choice. They started
From where?
developing
From
all kinds of everything. Doctors,
Google.
media, internet, Google, you know.
It's not trustworthy.
Again, you need to know which sources you can trust. I don't trust any website that opens. Okay, I first check the source. Once I trust the source, I will accept what it says. In addition to that, you try it out. Say there? Sleep deprivation. Anything under 6 hours of sleep at night, that day is gone. If you have more than one night sleeping less than 6 hours, you're already in trouble. Even if you slept 8 hours last night, but for the last 3 nights you slept for 3 or 4 hours every night, it doesn't mean you're going to function properly today. Every night of sleep you miss, I don't care if you slept the whole day afterwards, but you did not sleep at night, it takes a week to recover. You just ruined your week.
What? I've noticed that as well, but why? What's the difference between night sleep and day sleep that it's like that?
We are never going to finish the decision-making lecture. Trust me.
You open the can.
I know I opened the can. I was doing you guys a favor. It's very simple. Anybody knows about gravity radiation? Okay. MIT has done a research about it a few years back. It's a concept that exists in alternative medicine for the last 2,000 years. Large bodies have gravity. Everybody knows this? Okay, the larger the body, the higher the gravity. Gravity radiates like light does. Okay? So even without seeing a distant body, we can feel its gravity radiation. We don't have the senses to feel it, but it could be detected. That's the research MIT was doing, is developing detection systems for gravity radiation. Okay? Every form of radiation in the world, this is a short course in physics, any form of radiation corresponds to a different size object. So, for example, microwave radiation, the frequency of it, corresponds to what size items? Anybody knows? Water molecules. Okay? Which is why microwave boils water, but it will not even warm up things that have no water in them. Okay? No moisture, no water molecules, microwave does nothing to it. Because it doesn't touch. Okay? Now, we have different size organs in our bodies. These bodies feed from radiation. the radiation of different star constellations that go over us at nighttime. We can only receive that energy when the body is asleep and that item is in receive mode. If it's in give energy mode, it does not receive at the same time. So if you're not asleep while the constellation is going over your head, you miss that night's jolt of energy. The day's energy kind of keeps you from passing out. It doesn't really feed your internal organs. This is just a very short, one element of it. There are a few more. Sleep at night. The last one is any form of drug, be it legal, illegal, anything that goes in there and goes cuckoo with your brain will continue cuckooing your brain even when you think you're sober.
Caffeine, tobacco.
I'm sorry?
Caffeine, tobacco, alcohol.
Any form of drug. Okay? Today, even what they try to sell as natural drug, is like pot and hashish, it's all been genetically restructured. You guys heard of genetic engineering? It's all been genetically restructured, and most of it is laced right out of the field. Okay? So you guys are, it's like dropping sand in a car engine and wondering why it's not running so well. We get the idea? It's a very complex machinery. It cannot stand junk inside of it. So these are some tips to help you guys not have to consume psychiatric medicine, which is what Ritalin is. If you find yourself still needing it, use natural alternatives. They have less side effects and less harmful effects. Questions so far? Can we go back to decision making? Okay, decision making. So, what we want to do is we want to be able to judge our own value system. Our value system has to be so sharp, so clear, so well defined that our brains cannot distort their definitions. Okay? We cannot distort the definition of murder and have wealth override it. We cannot distort the definition of lying and have survival or money or career override it. Why? If my definition of lying is extremely clear, let me give you guys a definition of lying that's super clear. You ready? Lying is distortion in any amount of reality for any reason, with the exception of two conditions. One, marriage, shalom bayit. Okay? The second, physical health or survival. If yours or somebody's life is in danger, one is allowed to lie. Okay? There's one other condition that's a little more complex. We won't go into it right now. But let's take these two elements. And distortion of any form is called lying. Now, go write a resume. You see, as much as you will be inclined to write down lies of any form, even what they call today white lies, right? I don't know why you write them with black ink, but nonetheless it's called white lies. Okay? Even those white lies do not come into play because you have very fine, clear definition of your values. Nachon? So when do we get in trouble? When we don't have clear definitions of our values, when our values are very general. They're very nice. They're politicians' values. How do politicians get elected? They give you very general values. Everybody can connect to it. They will never give you a fine, strictly defined, limited, with examples of their values. because then they'll have to actually put it to work. And that's going to ruin the whole election process. We catch the idea? So you want to have an easy time making decisions in life? Make sure that your values are very nicely defined. Now, can anybody give me a decision that, of course, their friends need to make, that their friends have been struggling with for a while? Let's try to break it down together with this method and see how easy it is to make a decision. Okay? Now, some of the questions I'm asked are regarding relationships. Should I marry such and such person? Is this person right for me? Okay? If you do not know the values of actual marriage, how would you know who's fit for that? How do you know? I mean, if you don't know what marriage is about and why we get married and what are the rules of the game when you're married, how would you know which partner will be suitable for you? It's like going on a trip, not knowing what kind of acclaim or road conditions are awaiting you and picking the right car. Is it possible? No. You have to be very, very well prepared. Nachon? How? By knowing exactly where you're heading. People ask me a lot about, students ask me a lot about staying here or going back to their home countries. That constantly comes up. Okay? Again, your values. They have to be very, very clearly defined. Okay? Anybody has a question their friends are debating with, which they would like to throw on the table so that we can have a live example? I usually don't share my clients' examples because they might watch the video. Okay, I can share with you some of the dilemmas I had. When I got married, we were supposed to come to Israel. My wife and I, we met in the United States. We said we're going to come to Israel. We're going to study here for a little while. I'll study in yeshiva. She'll study in seminar, and then we'll go back and get married. Well, after a couple of months here, we called up the family and we said, you know what? They have really nice weddings here. And they seem to be a lot happier and a lot more fun and a lot cheaper. Why don't we get married here? They say, what about all the family abroad? We say, we'll take a video camera and film, send them the video. And we stayed. We got married. And they said, look, we're already here. People get married there and come to have their honeymoons in Israel. We're already here. We'll just have our honeymoon here, right? So we stayed a few more months. Then we were already pregnant. And we said, look, people leave their jobs, their homes, their families to raise their kids in Israel. We're already here. So we went for a trip, sold, burnt, or gave away everything we had, and came back and continued living here. The decision there was, the biggest one, was family and money versus child raising and spiritual growth. Okay? We see the value system. Now you can justify, we can justify these two with the money and the family with all kinds of philosophical justifications. Does money increase our quality of life? Improve our quality of life? In general, yeah. When a person has money, are they calm? Are they more relaxed? Are they more pleasant? Can they do good deeds with their money? Can you give charity? Can you help homeless people? Right? You can give all kinds of opportunity to your kids. They can learn how to play the piano, and they can learn how to scuba dive, and they can learn how to play the piano underwater, right? All kinds of things you can do with money, which you cannot do if you don't have money. So here are those very important values. Of course, family and closeness and being togetherness, and somebody has to, you know, flip the chicken when they're barbecuing while I play with the kids. So we need a big family. Okay? Versus raising the kids, but then you can raise the kids anywhere. And spiritual growth, but you can grow spiritually anywhere. So we should go back to the United States. How's that line? Played with anyone? Anybody's going back? We didn't. Why? Because the most difficult thing one needs to do in the world is to cut himself in half. Say, this is what I want or need, and this is my value. Don't mix them up. There's nothing more difficult than that. Nothing more difficult than that. The first step in doing it is having your values perfectly defined. Now, I'll give you a tip. It takes months of debate and a lot of lectures, and we don't have time, so I'm just going to come straight to the conclusion. Humans cannot create their own value system. You want evidence to that? History of the world.
You mean by that we can't choose our values? Like I can't choose that this is my value and this is not?
It's useless.
Okay.
We cannot. We don't do it. We don't do it well. We don't do it at all. If we do it, we screw up with it. Okay? You guys all know the story about Aristo? Aristo? The philosopher. Aristotle. Aristotle had a student. His student was another very famous philosopher, Plato. So Aristotle had philosophies about righteousness and the proper way to live and the right way of being a human being and how to not be an animal and be a human being and Aristotle. And Plato was his greatest student. One day Plato comes home and like all good Mexican operas, soap operas, he catches his master with his mistress wife, with his wife. And he says, Aristo. And he says, no, I'm not Aristo. Okay? Because if I make the rules, I can break them. I decided that this is the right thing to do, and I decided it's not the right thing to do. I'm still true to my own system, right? All I have to do is change the system. So far, so good?
No.
Let's go back to the... I'm sorry? Oh. Okay? I mean, look, we already brought up Hitler as an example, right? He said that, what is the Aryan race? You have to be tall and white and blonde with blue eyes and strong. And he was the exact opposite, right? He was short and so how do you make sense of that? It's okay. I make the rules, I make the exceptions. Right? I mean, the first thing he should have done was shoot himself.
Yeah.
By his own rules. Nachon? He didn't shoot himself. He hung himself and burned himself, but he didn't shoot himself. Okay.
Burned himself? That's what people think because no one burned him.
No, so doesn't matter. We got rid of him. We're happy. Okay. Okay. But we get the idea. So human beings cannot make the rules. The rules have to be of an external element. By the way, that's another thing that makes marriages work. If I make the rules and she makes the rules, we're always going to have conflict. Whose rules are right? Mine's, hers. Maybe mine are righter. Okay? Let's agree to disagree cannot happen within a family. In the family, there's no let's agree to disagree. You can let's agree to disagree with everything and everyone else. Not with your partner, not with your children. There's no let's agree to disagree there. So we have to agree, but we don't agree. Who's right? We see how it's a problem? So who's right? A third party, which we both adhere to. So then we have difficulty fighting.
Who's the third party? Torah.
In our case, Torah. Okay? The Torah is the only source of values. It is a conclusion that has been arrived at by philosophers, by scientists, by thinkers throughout history. You'll find them almost in any and every field. Values is not something that science can come to. In the point of view of science, there is no difference between picking an apple off a tree and shooting a person. Scientifically, you've done exactly the same. You guys understand right? The science element of it? Okay, you basically, you killed the apple. It's murder. Stepping on a cockroach, killing a tribe of people, same thing, scientifically. So who's going to set values for us? We're going to set it. We don't even know what's good for us. We don't even know what we want. And we can change our minds at any point. And who said my values are righter than your values? So I can never agree with anyone on anything. Okay? I can never be an employee and I can never employ people. Right? Because when you deserve a $6,000 salary and you only get $5,000, then stealing from the office is not called stealing. Right? Isn't that an excellent value to live by? As long as you're not the owner of the company? If you're the owner of the company, then stealing from the company is the equivalent of being worthy of death by guillotine. Right? Why not? He's the boss. He gets to make the rules his way. So we have to adhere to a external entity of values. By the way, in children's education, the only way not to have rebellious children, the only way not to have rebellious children, there is no rebellious teenagers in a condition where you adhere to the same set of rules you imply to your child. That's the only condition under which you're not going to have rebellious children. If you don't do that, you're guaranteed to have rebellious children.
So can you make your rule, this is just for adults?
I'm sorry?
Are they going to accept it? Like, we have rules, like, for example, Coke is just for adults.
Okay.
Like, that's it. And then
It's not fair.
they followed the rule and I followed the rule, but I was still thinking they can have Coke and I can't.
Nachon. Very good. Now let me ask you a question. Does the whole set of rules come with no logic and no backing? Or the whole set as a whole has a certain line or logic?
It was total logic.
I'm sorry?
I felt like there was total logic.
Okay, excellent. So let me ask you a question. Why is Coke not allowed for children?
Because of the caffeine, it's not good for the growth.
Very good. So we said that certain things harm children at their age. They do not harm me as an adult. Right? So you're not allowed to do anything that harms an adult. As an adult. Now, if you do something, if you smoke and you tell your kid you cannot drink Coke because it's only for adults, system is out of the window. Rebellious children. We see how it works? Isn't it simple? It's so easy. Okay? So easy. External system, value system. There has to be values. It's not because I said so. I do tell my children sometimes because I said so, but only when he cannot understand the explanation, not when I don't have a good one. We get the idea?
Yeah.
I can say, look, you're too young to understand. We'll discuss it in 3 years. But not, I don't have a good explanation. And then you wonder why the kids are rebellious. Okay, and rebellious kids these days do really stupid things. I mean, I know I was rebellious, and we did stupid things. Nothing in the caliber of what kids are doing these days. Really, not even in the neighborhood. Not on the same planet. Okay, of what kids do, and not even near the ages that they're doing it now. Okay? They're like, you know, out of kindergarten, I'm rebelling, you know. What? Go back to bed. You know? I'm gonna leave the house. Okay? You're 8. Where are you gonna go? Okay? Yeah, they do. They have guts. They have the means. More things are available to them. They are way smarter than we were. Way smarter. Way smarter. And if you're under the impression that because you guys are young, then you guys are going to be as smart as your kids are, forget about it. The gap keeps growing. So remember the gap between your parents and your grandparents? And then that gap grew between you and your parents? Now wait till you have kids. We did the math? Yeah. I'm going to have to edit it.
We're screwed.
Edit it twice. Okay, we get the idea? So the gap keeps growing. Remember when couples used to stay together even though they weren't so happy, but at least it was better than being divorced or being alone? Okay? Remember when people were ashamed of cheating on their partners? Good old days? Okay, they're all out of the window. Remember when married people were not part of the game? As a single person, you do not approach a married person. Okay? So your partner, your married partner, can sleep comfortably at night knowing, you know what? At least he won't make a move. Well, he might not need to make a move anymore. Okay? The rules of the game are all broken. If we don't adhere to an external set of rules, our life's in the toilet. See, nice way of saying it. Pseder? Does anybody disagree with this? Because the next step is extremely demanding, very difficult to put to work. And if you guys agree with this, you're in a lot of trouble. So does anybody disagree this is your last chance to get off the train?
What, you?
You guys are sure you all agree with everything I said tonight? Yes.
Well, even if we do take the Torah as our value system, there are a lot of things in there that are debated and that aren't solid conclusions for. So who's to say we can't choose which one we feel suits us better and just adopt it?
Beautiful. But you're 3 steps ahead. Let's take the room with us there. Seda? We'll take it. That's roughly our third session. Our third and final session is that. But first we need to get there. Okay? Who said that the Torah is a value system to adhere to begin with? Who said that if we need to adopt an external system, it has to be a godly one or a Torah one? Why not adopt, I don't know, the legal system or some philosopher's philosophy system? There isn't a shortage of philosophies. I know. I was a secular guy, studying in university, looking for meaning in life, examining, reading, studying all kinds of philosophies, all kinds of external value systems, for nothing else than to at least help me build my own. Who says that these are no good, that they're useless?
Because you just said that humans can't create their own value.
Very good. Because they're all created by humans. And humans, as high and as smart and as intelligent as they may be, and by the way, I used Aristo as an example. The Rambam, everybody knows who the Rambam is? Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon. The Rambam writes of Aristo Yeah, I think it's Aristo. I don't think it's Plato. I don't think it's a student. It's Aristo. As having reached the highest level of human wisdom without the power of the Torah. Okay? So just as a human creature, the highest level of wisdom was Aristotle. And look at where he got. We get the idea? So if this is the highest form, so what value system can I adopt? With the exception of one given by no one else but God. If I have that value system, it's very difficult for me to be in a dilemma. A dilemma is only a lack of information on my behalf, not knowing the exact definitions of the values. That's when I get stuck. Because if it's a godly value system, then it's very accurate. And if it's very accurate, it doesn't contradict with its other values. You see the ideas? I mean, that's what the legal system does all day. It creates a law, and then it creates another law, and then it says that this law and that law contradict under these circumstances, and then it has to change them or make third laws, right? But if God created it, then it's perfect. Everything has its set territory, every rule has its place, and they never contradict over the same area. We see the point? So I'm set. So if I'm stuck in a point where I don't know what's the right thing to do, is because I don't know the limits of the rules very well. I don't know what's murder. I don't know what's theft. I don't know what's cheating. Is smiling at another person cheating? Flirting? Having a drink? Complimenting? What's the definition of flirting? What's the definition of cheating? How do I know? Am I cheating on my wife or not? You know, the greatest joke, I didn't inhale. I'm not that old. What's his name? Clinton. He said, I never did drugs. And then they had him on videos or pictures smoking pot. He said, well, I didn't inhale. Okay? What's your definition of doing drugs? Okay? We see the idea? What's the definition of lying? If everything is predefined, defined strictly, nicely, and accurately, we don't have a problem raising our kids. We know exactly what's punishable, what's not punishable, how do you punish, if you punish at all. How do you encourage? What's proper encouragement? What's called spoiling? How do you spoil a kid? Anybody know? Everybody here, by the way, is planning to have a kid. Anybody who wants a kid eventually, raise your hand.
Well, what does that mean? Like maybe or? Like
No, you want for sure a kid someday, at least. Everybody? Very good. Okay. Anybody here wants to raise spoiled children? Raise your hands. Anybody knows how not to spoil your kids? At least clear rules and guides as to how not to do it. Can anybody give me a rule as to how not to spoil your kids? What is the definition of spoiling your kid?
Give them everything they want.
Don't give them anything they don't deserve.
Okay, I don't give my kids everything they want. He wanted a convertible Mustang.
What's your kid?
I'm sorry? No, let's say he's 16 and he lives in California and he wants a convertible red Mustang. He's getting a blue one. That's right, he's not getting everything he wants. Define to me, what does it mean, not getting everything he wants?
Don't give them anything they don't deserve. Like they have to deserve everything.
That's right. You barely studied today. You were a lazy bum. You don't deserve what? Dinner, a bed, sleep. Where's the limits? You don't deserve bus money for tomorrow, walk to school. Where are the limits?
Extra.
Who decides what is called, what's against what? What are the values? What do you deserve? You see what I mean? We have to be very, very, very clear. You guys are on the verge. You guys are on the verge of making decisions that are going to impact your lives forever. You need to have a very clear value system. and one you can rely on and not regret until the end of your life. You see what I mean? If you walk away from a relationship because of a preference, you could, I'm not saying you will, but you could potentially regret it for the rest of your life. If you walk away from it because of a value, you're doing much better. If you walk away from it because of a value God gave you and you know it very clearly, you're never going to regret it. We see how your decision making impacts your happiness. We see how. Now, if everybody is with me so far, and by the way, whoever is not, better let me know, because if later on I found out that you guys were not with me and you said yes. Okay? So everybody agrees with everything I said until now? These have very serious impact on your lives. I mean, if you guys are true to yourselves, you guys are in a lot of trouble. Okay? Anybody can see the implications of the trouble you guys are in? Okay, just making sure. Okay? Well, you guys are in a lot of trouble. Okay, so the next step up is, how do I know what are God's values? Who says what God's definition of cheating is? Who said I'm not allowed to cheat? In China, it was part of the culture. This is news for anyone? You guys know about this? You don't know? Okay. Not so ancient China, part of the culture was that the wife provides the husband with mistresses. They actually had a name for it. I don't remember what it is. That.
Isn't that in Japan?
Yeah, I think it was
That's
Japan.
Okay, Japan. Big difference.
Japan is not China.
Cheating is cheating. I mean, Japan, China, Norway. Does it matter? There we go. Okay, so it's part of the culture. It was part of the culture that the wife actually provides the mistresses. Certain countries in South America, if a married man does not cheat on his wife, he's looked at by fellow men as at least gay. Okay? I mean, this guy is weird, he's bizarre, this gorgeous woman, he doesn't do anything with her. You know, he's married. Yeah, and? Okay? I was asked that, by the way, straight up front. I said, I'm sorry, I'm in a relationship. And he said, and? I said, what do you mean, and? He said, I'm in a relationship too. This doesn't stop me or anybody else. Why does it stop you? Okay? What's the definition? Is he standing behind it right?
Talking about stopping, someone has to stop you also.
Ah, you see? I'm in trouble. I told you guys. Okay.
To be continued.
It will be.
In 2 weeks.
Not a problem.
I just wanted to announce one quick announcement. God willing, next Tuesday we're having a Sheva Brachot celebration for a wedding of a student of ours. I don't know if you know her, because she used to do like one-on-one.
Beautiful.
Mostly, by the name of Nina. You know her. And Ilan, she's American, he's French. So we're going to have a very nice celebration here next Tuesday.
Mazal tov, mazal tov.
We're going to have like regular classes until 8:30, and then from 8:30 until 10:30 we'll have a nice meat meal. So
Beautiful.
if just on the way out, if you're able to tell us if you think you'll be or not, just we need to know in terms of ordering food. It'll really help us to
Yeah,
know
jog
the
me down
numbers.
for being here.
Paz will be here. Okay. Thank you very much, Paz.
Pleasure. Pleasure.
Okay.
So, we wrap up the subject.
Yeah. Okay.
Excellent.
In
So-
2 weeks you'll be back.
So the idea is, who defines it? Who says what God's values are? Who's justified to say it? There are different systems claiming to be God's systems, right? Who says what's right, what's wrong? Which one is right, which one is wrong? Okay? how to apply it, what the exact definitions are. If my wife and I cannot agree on basic definitions, I intentionally took extreme definitions, but they're not really extreme, they're day-to-day definitions. They're day-to-day definitions. I know I work as a marriage counselor. They come to me and they don't agree on the basic terms of day-to-day life. I don't want to ruin the relationship of any couple in the crowd, but I can take any couple in the crowd and show it to you guys so easily. Say there? So you guys think about that until next week. If you haven't had a chance, watch the video on TED.com. If you were not here last week, it's on YouTube. It was uploaded today. I walked away when it was 91% up, so it should be up by now. It's on my channel, Positive. I would love to have anonymous questions. You guys can send me by email. I would love to answer them next week. If you guys are more brave than that, feel free to jot down your questions. Feel free to discuss these issues with friends and family and bring back their ideas, their concepts. Okay? Their solutions to these questions we brought up, to these dilemmas we brought up, to the issues we brought up. Because next session is almost solely question answer, and we will discuss that beautiful question, how do I interpret the information I have at hand? How do I know what's the value, the external value system I need to adhere to? Thank you so much.
Thank you.